Hi guys. So I'm sitting on my bed in my home and I wanted to make a new YouTube series on moving into our new home, but I'm kind of sad about leaving my apartment. I have lived here for 8 years, I believe. I moved in 2013, so quote my math, is probably wrong, but this was my first apartment that I have lived in by myself, that was 100% my own, that I didn't have a roommate in. And I promised myself back in 2013 when I moved out that I was never gonna move again unless I was married or having a kid, buying a house, and I think that's it. But I just can't believe it. Like, this has been my nook. This is my home for the last 8 years. And why it means so much to me is because I went to 5 elementary schools as a kid. I think I only had a stable home where I didn't move from the time I was in probably 6th grade to high school. I finally settled down. But then when I graduated high school, I moved out when I was 18. I moved 7 times in 2 years. I've had, I think, 2 to 3 roommates, and I bounced from house to house, essentially being homeless. Like, I don't want to say the term homeless because I never exactly slept on the street or anything like that. Sometimes I slept in my car, but I never actually like had a home of my own from the time I graduated. I was trying to find my footing in life. My parents both asked me, like, come move in with us. Like, my dad lived in another state, my mom lived super far, and it just didn't like work with school and stuff. So I had lived on my own since I was 18 and just bounced from friend's house to friend's house. My car got broken into because I had to go to move from that house. And then I lived with a family who I'd loved to live with, and then their oldest daughter had nowhere to go, and I had my own room, and I felt bad, so I didn't want it to be awkward, so I moved out of there. And I just literally, being in a stable home for me means so much because I didn't really have that. I moved back and forth from the Valley to East LA when I was a kid multiple times. That's why I went to 5 different elementary schools. So that's why when I first got this apartment, I was like, that's it. I'm done with roommates. Like, not that my roommates were horrible, because I absolutely love them. They were my best friends, but it's just very different. And I have not lived with anybody in so long. And my apartment manager didn't even want to rent this place out to me, because if you know anything about apartments, if you've never lived on your own, you have to make triple the rent here in California, which I definitely did not do. When I was living here first, I was making, I think, $1,200 at Starbucks a month. My rent was $850. My cell phone bill was like $70. And that's it. I didn't have internet. So yeah, it has been a crazy journey to see myself like coming from making $25,000 a year at Starbucks to being a nurse and like being able to afford stuff now. And I'm so excited to finally move in with my fiance, but at the same time, like, I'm so sad to give up my home, because this has been my home for so long. Like, this is where I come home to my cats. Like, this is, I don't know my neighbors, but like everything, when you are, I don't want to say homeless, but when you don't have a reliable car, when you don't have money, enough money to be comfortable, there's things that you like, a way of thinking. Like, I made sure to live where all the banks were walking distance. My job when I worked at Starbucks was 4 miles. I could walk there. Like, grocery stores here, if my car ever broke down, like, it's, walking distance. Everything that I need could possibly is within reach. And like, even my dad, when I bought my car, he was like, you should lease. And I was like, no, I want to buy my car. And he's like, why? And I'm like, because if I'm ever homeless or if I ever lose my job, like, I could live in my car. And he's like, what? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, it makes sense to me. Like, for the longest time, I only had enough stuff so that I could pack up in my little car and move if I had to, because those 7 times in 2 years that I moved, I literally owned enough things to pack into my car and move. Like, that was it. That's my whole world was enough to fit in one car. And my kitty, of course, she's right there. So I am just like, this is so nuts that this is finally happening, that I'm finally moving. I love my apartment manager, and I remember her and I sitting down having a conversation, and her telling me, like, you don't make enough money to live here. And she was like, but I talked to your old apartment manager and you have really good credit. She's like, so I'm willing to give you a try, give you a chance. And I was so excited because I don't know what I would have done. Like, I remember when I came here, $850 was the most that I could afford at the time, and that's what I was paying, which is a joke now because the rent in California is so much more than that. But mind you, this was 7-8 years ago. So yeah, I still only pay less than $1,000 here, thankfully, to rent control. Like, I don't understand why people are so against rent control or like minimum wage being $15. And the reason why is because I was that person. I was that person that was working full-time at Starbucks, was going to school full-time, not getting money from FAFSA. I wasn't getting help from the government. I made too much money to get help, but yet didn't make enough money for my parents to support me with school. So it was always so difficult to have to work full-time, live on your own. Like, if you've never done it, you don't understand. So it is difficult. People always say, like, oh, those jobs are not meant to sustain life. Yeah, but what about people like me who were going to nursing school full-time and trying to make a living so that they could have a better life? Like, what then? I am very proud to say that I have not one student loan, not one ounce of debt that I owe to anybody. My car is paid off. Like, I don't owe anyone anything. And that was because I did save my money. I busted my butt. I paid school out of pocket. I made sure to find classes that I could have as I went. I'm so thankful for my parents because my mother taught me how to be super independent and how to hustle and how to work 3 jobs. And, you know, my mother was a single mom. She had to work 3 jobs to keep a roof over our head. My dad taught me everything about finances and credit scores and how to save and how to invest and all this stuff. And I'm just so thankful for him for that because I was able to live on my own and go to school. I have 2 associate's degrees, 1 bachelor's, 1 master's, and like I said, I don't owe an ounce of debt to anybody. And it is just crazy now. So I think this series is going to be me packing up my little house. And part of me, it's so funny still, like, part of me still wanted to rent it. Like, I can't afford to rent it and pay mortgage, but part of me still wanted to like sublet it just because I'm like, this is my home. Like, this is my mountain that I climb every day is right up the street. Like, everything that I enjoy is in this neighborhood. But yeah, I think this is basically going to be a series of me packing up this house and moving into our old house, and our new house, and setting it up. And it's so funny because I talked to my fiance and I asked him, like, are you nervous at all about, like, there's so many things happening for me this year. Like, we're moving, we're getting married, I have my second internship out of the 3 this year. I should be graduating by the end of this year. Like, I'm changing my last name. Like, there's just so much going on. And I find it so funny. I was asking Cameron, like, are you nervous about any of this? Like, there's so much changing. We just got 2 puppies. Like, and he's like, no, why? And I'm like, okay, like, I'm freaking out here. And I'm like, I don't have cold feet at all. Like, Cameron is the best thing that's ever happened to me. He is the best partner I could have ever asked for. But I'm not worried about changing my name, sort of, just because of my licensing and the bullcrap with the Board of Registered Nursing, because it's so slow in California. Offense to you guys. But I am just sad to give up my home. Like, this is my little house. I'm excited for what's to come, but that's the only part of freaking me out. Like, I'm not getting cold feet about the wedding, none of that. Like, I'm super excited to get married and start our new life together, but leaving my house is like, But the neighborhood here is kind of getting bad. When I moved in, this was one of the wealthier neighborhoods in the valley, and now there is just, I hear gunshots sometimes. I see homeless people out every day, and I see more and more like break-ins and yelling, and just, it's insane how progressively worse the city has gotten. But it's still my home, and this is still the first place that I've made home and afforded by myself. This is the place that I've reached all my accomplishments. And one thing I'm very proud of is that I went from making no money to being stable, and nothing in my life changed. Like, still drive a Honda. I don't buy anything fancy. I realize that money truly is not everything. Like, it doesn't matter how much money you make, those problems that you have will always be there. And I realized once I can't afford anything, but everything, but I realized that now that I can afford more things, it doesn't make me happy. Like, what makes me happy is friendship and family and doing things with them. And it's been so difficult for me because I've been in school for basically my whole life, and that's coming to end because I'm not going back after this. After I get my master's, I'm done. But yeah, there's just so many things changing, so I welcome you to come along with me in this journey and see where life goes. Okay guys, here we go, packing the first box. So I recommend you never buy boxes if you don't have to. Go to your local grocery store, go to your local Starbucks, ask them if they are gonna have an order soon, because it seriously helps when people come pick up boxes, because then they don't have to do as many trash runs. So I was like, the hell am I gonna put in this big ass box? Like, this is gonna be way too heavy. And then I remembered blankets. So there's my tip for you for moving. Don't pay too much for boxes. So this is a cork board that my friend Bethel gave me, and I made it my wall of motivation. So basically every nice card or motivational thing that somebody has given me, I put it up here. And since it's a new chapter in my life, I'm gonna start all over. All right, day one, feeling empty. Honestly, I thought I'd cry while I packed, but I kind of was singing and listening to music, so I didn't. But I feel like it's already bare. Like, this is day one. That's the outcome. I'm hoping to get more boxes this weekend at Starbucks, but we'll see.